Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
PD Beats here from Popternative, speaking to Justiin Davis about The Boys. Season 3 just premiered recently on Prime Video. Welcome to the show, man. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, absolutely. So I've seen, other interviews you've done and everything. You've been doing this for, you like the storytelling bug kind of hit you at a young age. Like you've always known you wanted to do this, correct?
Yeah. My aunt always tells me about this time. I was about 3 years old and she had taken me to this audition and I stood up on my tiptoes and I was like, I want to be on TV. I've just always been fascinated by the entire industry. I saw Sister Act 2, like I said, at 3 and it changed my world to see like just that sort of the fun, the enjoyment that you got from it. And I always wanted to do it ever since a kid.
Absolutely. And, you've worked also behind the camera as well, not just in front of the camera, right?
Yeah. It's been really fun. What I've been able to do since over the pandemic, everything slowed down. I found a small sort of closet and I sort of soundproofed it and I built a little home studio or a home like sound booth. And from the beginning of the pandemic, or I would say maybe a couple months into it, I was able to work and do some ADR sessions with a few shows that are out now. And we're out over the pandemic. So I was able to make some time, doing that and really happy that they were, able to have me too.
Absolutely. I feel like as soon as people saw the trailers about season 1 of The Boys, it was just kind of one of those things where people were just intrigued because of how unique it looked, how genre bending the show was. Now, season 3 recently just dropped. When you kind of first saw The Boys, even in season 1, let's say, did you kind of realize what a unique show this specifically was?
Oh yeah, right away.
Right away. Right away. Exactly.
Yeah, like no one was doing this on television, and to think that this was a few years ago now. It's just season 3, but this I think it was about a year and a half between season 2 and season 3. So to see that they were doing this back in season 1 and pushing the envelope back then, and the way that they're doing it now, it's like no one's doing this on television, and that makes it the most fun. With superheroes essentially being in real life, and then just the mayhem and the chaos that all causes. It's a great world to play in.
But it's also pretty easy. It's easier than you would think to explain what it's about. Like I was thinking, because there's so much happening, but literally it's just commodified man-made superheroes, and not all of them are super. That's
right. Exactly. Not super great, but they're all something. They're all something.
You joined the cast for season 3. You are part of a flashback where you play Young Stan Edgar, which is played by Giancarlo Esposito. I mean, wow, that's so cool. You know what I mean? I don't know what else to say.
Thank you.
Well, what can you tell us about, so did you audition for this? How did that come to be?
Yeah, I went through the same process as every actor goes through, every sort of show, film, play, anything. It was started out with first round auditions and it went on for a little while, sort of back and forth. And it was done during the pandemic, so everything was done through self-tape. So I would tape and send something in and not hear anything for a little while and then hear something and then try to not hype myself up, because in this thing you don't want to get too hyped, because you can have the rug pulled from under your feet real fast, which is the up and down of the industry. But then I would hear something again and then go tape again and then go take notes and not hear anything. And then one day I was on the phone with my team and they were like, so you got it. And I tell you, I probably ran around the house, jumping and screaming, cursing, everything. But yeah, it was an amazing moment. But yeah, I started out with just first round audition.
What's the mindset that you're going to be part of a flashback where flashbacks are so massive in TV and film right now? They're being used a lot. They're being used in different ways. What's that mindset like for you, Justin?
Well, for me, it was just about, sort of following the blueprint that came before and what Giancarlo had did. And when it comes down to it, what's really great about the world of The Boys is that they're flashing back to something that's, not seen yet, but sort of established in a way. And I was able to work with an established character and his mannerisms, his his tonality, his cadence, and the way he spoke and everything. And those are some of the things that I focused on. So to go back and sort of find those younger nuances that Giancarlo would maybe have had as a young Stan Edgar was really, it was fun and exciting to sort of explore. And then also, you know, I was grateful for just the brilliance that he sort of put out there before I was even, you know, able to read for the show, before I even knew of there being a younger version. So it was, I went back and it was about having fun, but following the blueprint that Giancarlo laid out. Yeah.
Did you have a chance to talk to him before or after at all about any of this?
I didn't, and I haven't yet. And so
no!
I know. So
Damn!
So what's happened is we filmed this like just under a year ago, and he had started working on Godfather Harlem at the time, I think it was, or maybe it was some other fantastical project that the genius works on. But no, he was back in the States, and then, you know, Toronto is where The Boys films. So I was already out of the country at the time, and, you know, but the show was able to give me everything that I could possibly have needed, you know, an over excess of like information. And, you know, I've been watching his work ever since Do the Right Thing, you know, and even for my audition, I brought in a few elements, like when it just came down to like speech work, I tried to bring in a few elements of Giancarlo, because he always has this presence and this demeanor and control of the room that I think is very consistent with many different things that he plays. So I tried to layer, you know, my initial auditions and not just what he had done with Stan Edgar, but I really wanted, you know, him to sort of come through the tape as well. But I'm hoping to hear something from him. I'm hoping that I just did him justice, you know, and I'm hoping that everyone's enjoying the younger version of him, you know, and understands that there's still time to grow and into the person that we know him to be now.
I mean, I'm sure if you ask, like, so anyone that like joined after, so like you joined season 3, there's a lot of other people that joined for season 3. There are a lot of other people that joined for season 2, not being on season 1. So is there always going to be this kind of overwhelming feeling or like pressure, so to speak, no matter what, joining like a popular show after it's already had one season? Like, I've always thought about that a little bit.
Well, it's interesting. So this is sort of the second time where it's happened that I've been able to jump onto a show like this that's sort of had a great appreciation with you know, with the public, with audiences. Boardwalk Empire, I started on my second season, and, you know, I played the son of Michael K. Williams, Chalky White, and, you know, it was already by that time one of HBO's largest shows of that, you know, that year. And I remember talking to my dad about, you know, just reading for it, and him saying, you know, I've loved this show since it came out, and just imagining you going in, that's already like, you know, an accomplishment of itself in and of itself. And he didn't actually get to see me on too many seasons of it, but, you know, that still holds true to today. You know, it's an amazing feeling when you can jump onto a show that has already found its footing and knows the direction that it's going in. But it's also so great because they're very responsive, you know, both Boardwalk and even though Boardwalk was sort of set in a realer sort of like time period and with a realer background and backstory, what's really great is both shows listen to the public, see the public sort of, you know, reaction, and they adaptively move on their feet, you know, whether it's a splash pop, you know, pop sort of video that they'll put out on Instagram or social medias, or something like, you know, that takes place on screen. They're really great and adaptive. And that's what's the coolest thing, is that you get to play in a world that adjusts to audience, you know, interactions and reactions.
Oh, 100%. And to kind of add to what you just said, I feel like it's a good time to ask this question. I mean, Justin Davis is a storyteller. That's what you do. You are a storyteller. What excites you about storytelling specifically?
Oh man, I mean, so I think I said this somewhere else. My family, you know, when I told them I wanted to do this as a career, I'm sure that they were like, oh yeah, okay, because the week before I wanted to be like a firefighter, and then before that I wanted to be a magician, and then I wanted to be like you know, I wanted to be everything. And I think that's what is so thrilling about this, is that you can be it all. There's no sort of like limitation to what, you know, what you could be reading for one day, and, you know, where it'll take you, and, you know, be booked for the next. You know, I've read for many things, and then I was lucky enough to even do The Politician too, and be opposite Bette Midler on that. And that's not, you know, that's something I didn't necessarily forecast coming, you know, but I was really appreciative when it happened. and grateful that, that I even had the opportunity to work in that capacity. So when it came to something like this, it's even more thrilling and exciting because you never know where to go. You never know.
There's been a lot of hype about season 3 and it's finally out.
Yeah.
And myself too, because I'm a huge fan of the show. And I remember it was circled on my calendar. Like as soon as they announced that it was coming out in June, I was just like,
yeah, same.
It's one of those shows, man. It's just one of those shows that it's just, it's okay. It's like one of those shows where it sucks that you have to wait a long time, but it's one of those that you wait for.
Well, I hope it's worth it. I hope then that, the reaction is the wait was worth it and it's blowing people out the water. Not like the whale in the other season.
Is it cool to be kind of adding to what we said about the uniqueness of the show, but kind of speaking more towards the uniqueness from a superhero perspective, landscape, geek culture, comic book culture, where there's so much content of that genre now, and it's amazing, you know what I mean? But this is a very fresh take on this that really stands out.
Yeah. I think that ends up being one of the coolest things, that it's not sort of the typical superhero storytelling process, and I think the way they film and also just how far they're willing to go. There's things that some studios would never be able to do, only because, they have to remain, appropriate for a certain audience. And what's great is that this show is able to push through the limits, push through really anything that anybody's ever seen. And every season is just more, it's more of that. And that's what's exciting. And I think that's what the audience also watches for, because you just never know what's going to happen. You never know where it's going to go. And the only thing that you do know is that it's going to be even crazier than it was the last time. And last time, it was probably the craziest thing that you could imagine.
Well, I mean, that's also the point, right? Fun. I mean, we're the boys too. It's also how are we going to make season 3 better than season 2, but it's also how are we going to make it more crazy?
I mean, it's pretty tough because you have to just one up yourself every time.
How season 2 ended was how season 2 ended was crazy. Just everyone just getting exploded, and it was just how are they going to top it? And they're finding ways to top it. Let's be honest, but people are going to wait.
The first 10 minutes of season 3, I think it was what did we just get ourselves into?
No, it's every time you watch an episode of that show, it's crazy. Justin, it was so great chatting with you. Thank you so much for coming on Popternative.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
First 3 episodes on Prime Video right now, and then we're just gonna have to wait week by week for the other remaining episodes. And where can people follow you on social media to keep update with everything?
You can follow me on Instagram at official Justin Davis.
2 eyes.
Yes, 2 eyes and Justin.
2 eyes, absolutely. Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. Till next time, this is Justin Davis, who plays young Stan Edgar in season 3 of The Boys on Prime Video. And Peter Beats, signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.